Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the British Accent Podcast. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Sophia. Today's episode is going to explore something a little deeper, something that goes beyond vocabulary, grammar rules, or pronunciation practice.
Yeah, today we're talking about what learning English actually teaches you about yourself. It's not just about the language, it's about your mindset, your habits, your fears, and even your confidence.
Exactly. Because language learning is personal. The way you learn English often reflects the way you handle challenges in life. Do you give up when it's hard? Or do you try again? Do you get frustrated when you make mistakes? Or do you laugh and move forward?
It reveals your emotional patterns too. Some learners discover that they are more patient than they thought. Others realize they're incredibly persistent. I've met people who said, "I never knew I had this much determination, until I had to face English listening tests."
Yes. And I've heard people say, learning English made me braver. Especially when they start speaking in front of others. Because let's be honest, it takes courage to speak in a language that isn't your own. You have to be okay with sounding imperfect.
And that's such a powerful lesson. Being okay with imperfection, that's something most of us struggle with, even in our native languages. But language learning kind of forces you to let go of perfectionism, doesn't it?
Definitely. It teaches you to focus on progress, not perfection. That's something I love seeing in students. At first, they want to get everything right. Then later, they just want to be understood. And eventually, they want to connect, to express who they are.
Exactly. It shifts from, "I don't want to make mistakes," to, "I want to be myself in English." And that's beautiful. You start realizing that you're not just learning new words, you're learning new ways of being.
You also learn how you deal with failure. Maybe you freeze up in conversations. Or maybe you overthink everything you say. That's not just about English, that's about your relationship with fear, with pressure, with people.
And the cool part is, once you see that pattern, you can change it. English becomes a mirror, it reflects things back at you. Why am I scared to speak? Why do I feel embarrassed? These are powerful self-reflection questions.
And then when you do push through and start speaking anyway, you learn how strong you really are. You realize, I can be nervous and still show up. That's a life skill. That's not just English, that's you growing as a person.
So true. Some people even discover new sides of their personality in English. Maybe they are shy in their native language, but more playful in English. Or more expressive. It's like the language unlocks something unexpected inside.
Yes. It's like trying on a new version of yourself. And that's not fake, it's just a different angle of who you already are. Language gives you permission to explore different identities, emotions, and styles.
And don't forget the emotional strength it takes to keep going. When you're tired, when you're stuck, when progress feels invisible. If you keep showing up anyway, you learn that you're resilient. You're more disciplined than you thought.
And even the small wins matter. Like the first time you understand a song lyric. Or when you make someone laugh in English. Those moments teach you joy, confidence, and the value of effort.
It also makes you more empathetic. Once you've struggled to express yourself in another language, you become more understanding of others. You get what it feels like to be misunderstood, and that changes how you listen.
So in a way, learning English makes you a better communicator, not just in English, but in life. You listen more carefully, you express more clearly, and you appreciate the journey behind every conversation.
Exactly. It's not just about knowing the right word, it's about learning when to say it, how to say it, and why. And that kind of awareness shows you how much thought and emotion go into communication in any language.
And let's not forget, learning English also teaches you how to manage your inner voice. That little voice that says, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never sound fluent." You learn to challenge it, to say, I'm trying, and that's enough for today.
That's such a powerful shift. Because if you can silence that voice while learning English, you can probably silence it in other parts of your life too. That self-doubt isn't just about grammar, it shows up everywhere. And by overcoming it here, you're building real confidence.
And here's something people often miss: when you struggle in English, it doesn't mean you're not smart. In fact, it means you're brave. You're doing something incredibly intelligent: translating, adapting, absorbing culture, and thinking critically, all at the same time.
Right? It's not a weakness. It's mental strength. You're problem-solving, noticing patterns, dealing with frustration, and still coming back for more. That shows grit, flexibility, and focus.
And what's amazing is that the longer you keep learning, the more self-trust you build. You stop relying on just your memory or lessons, you start trusting your instincts. You begin to say, I think this feels right, and often it is.
Exactly. And when your instincts start guiding you, that's when English becomes more than a subject, it becomes part of you. A tool you can use to think, feel, connect, and be. You start believing, I don't just study English. I live it.
And that moment is so powerful. Because suddenly, you're not just chasing fluency anymore, you're embracing expression. You're not waiting to be perfect, you're communicating with heart, humor, and honesty. That's the real goal.
And once you get there, you realize English is no longer something you have to learn. It becomes something you want to use. You want to read, to listen, to speak, not just to improve, but to experience more of the world.
And isn't that beautiful? A language opens doors. Not just to new jobs or travel, but to new people, new ideas, even a new version of yourself. English becomes the bridge between who you were and who you're becoming.
Absolutely. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all: learning English teaches you that you're capable of growth, of change, of doing hard things, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you fail.
And with every small step, every sentence you say, every word you understand, you're proving to yourself that you're moving forward. And that momentum, it carries into every part of your life.
Because if you can show up for yourself in English, you can show up anywhere. If you can face your fear of speaking, you can face other fears too. Learning a language is like training for courage, discipline, and self-discovery.
So while most people just see grammar books and vocabulary lists, we see something deeper. We see people learning how to be resilient, open-minded, and emotionally strong, through the simple act of trying to say something in a new way.
And maybe that's the real magic of learning English. You think you're learning words, but what you're really learning is who you are when no one is watching, and who you have the potential to become.
And sometimes, it's in the quietest moments that those lessons hit you the hardest. Like when you reread a message you sent in English and realize, hey, I didn't even translate that in my head. Or when you watch a movie without subtitles and actually follow along. That quiet progress, it tells you you're growing.
Totally. And there's also that moment when you surprise yourself in conversation. Maybe you respond faster than usual, or you say something clever, or you make someone laugh. Those are little sparks of confidence that come from deep work, not overnight success.
And you realize learning English isn't about being the best. It's about being brave. It's about showing up to practice even when you feel awkward, staying curious even when you're tired, and speaking out even when you're unsure.
And that bravery becomes a mindset. You start thinking, if I can do this, what else can I do? You stop shrinking from challenges and start stepping into them, with the same attitude you've built from learning English.
It also teaches you how to be kind to yourself. Because if you're going to make progress, you have to learn to forgive your mistakes. You have to say, I messed that up, but that's okay. That's how I grow. That kind of compassion goes way beyond language. It shapes your whole approach to life.
Exactly. You learn to stop judging yourself by one conversation, one test, one embarrassing moment. You start seeing the bigger picture. That you're learning a skill over time. That you're human. That you're learning not just how to say things, but how to believe in yourself again.
And maybe one of the most powerful things you learn is patience. Because language doesn't click all at once, it builds slowly, day by day. And as you practice, you start to trust the process. You stop rushing. You start appreciating every little improvement.
Exactly. You shift from, why am I not fluent yet, to, wow, I understood more than I did last month. That change in mindset, from pressure to progress, is what keeps you going long term. It's what turns learning from a burden into a lifestyle.
And speaking of lifestyle, it also reshapes how you see people. When you struggle to express yourself in English, you gain so much empathy for others who are trying to do the same. You stop judging and start supporting. Because you know exactly how it feels.
That's so true. You become more patient with others, more open-minded, and more willing to listen. Learning English doesn't just change your communication, it deepens your connection to people around you, from all over the world.
And what's amazing is how often people underestimate themselves at the beginning. They think, I'm not good with languages, or I'm too shy to speak. But every time they try, they prove themselves wrong. Bit by bit, they discover strength they didn't know they had.
And it's in those moments, in the small victories and quiet breakthroughs, that you realize, learning English isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming more yourself, with every word, every sentence, every brave conversation.
Yes. Because the more you practice, the more your true personality starts to shine through in English. At first, you might feel like you're just translating thoughts, but over time, you start expressing opinions, making jokes, sharing stories, and people see you.
And that's when English becomes more than a skill. It becomes a mirror. You start noticing how you react under pressure, how you handle mistakes, how you celebrate progress. It reflects who you are and who you're becoming.
And even when you hit those moments of doubt, you know, when you feel stuck or frustrated, it teaches you how to stay steady. You learn how to keep going, how to show up anyway. That resilience you build doesn't disappear when class ends. You take it with you.
It becomes a part of your identity. And one day, you catch yourself doing something simple, maybe ordering coffee in English, helping someone with directions, or giving your opinion in a group chat, and you think, I just did that. I own this now.
That quiet ownership is so powerful. Because it's not about being loud or flawless, it's about being real. About knowing, I've worked for this. I've earned it. And that sense of pride, that's yours forever.
And once you've felt that, once you've tasted what it's like to truly express yourself in another language, there's no going back. You don't just walk away with better English. You walk away with a stronger, more confident version of yourself.
So if you're on this journey right now, learning, trying, stumbling, getting back up, just know this, you're not just learning English. You're learning how powerful you really are.
That's what language does. It opens doors, not just to the world, but to the deeper parts of who you are. So keep going. Keep showing up. Keep trusting that every word you learn brings you closer, not just to fluency, but to your fullest self.
This has been the British Accent Podcast. Thanks for joining us today, and remember, English is more than a language. It's your voice in the world. Keep speaking it. Keep being you.